Okay. No, it's good. All right. Maybe. Yeah. I really don't. I think we'll be okay here. Not really sure. Is this a touch screen? Okay. So how would I? Try this. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Oh, we have the audio on that or not? Just click
here. Wells here. This would have provided water and met all the needs of Israelites. Here you can see this area with the palm tree. Now it says in Exodus 15.
Just have a little video here.
Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they camped there beside the waters. And you can see in this video, this place has been found. This very place that it talks about has been found, and it supports the biblical text. To this day, there are many palm trees and exactly 12 wells here. This would have provided water and met all the needs of the Israelites. Here you can see this area with the palm trees and some of the wells. The Saudi locals in the area point out that this is Elim and has been known by this name as long as they can remember. Now it says in Exodus 15, it says, then they came to Elim.
I just kind of wanted to play that video. I found it online and I thought it was fairly interesting. You can sort of see here that this little town, Elim, a little settlement, it's actually just an oasis in the desert, if you will. And you'll notice that it's just, if I can show you right here. This is the Red Sea. And after the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, within just a day or two, they came into a campment called Elim. Maybe it was 3 days. And they were at Elim before they got to Sinai. So it was on the other side of the Red Sea, and it was very close to Sinai. The time period between Elim and Sinai is 15 days, according to the text, but they probably didn't move on at least 2 and possibly 3 days, just depending on how the Sabbath landed. It could have been 3 days if they didn't move. Yes, sir. That's a good question. I'd have to think through that one a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
I was just saying that the Sabbath is really sort of enforced at Sinai. They could have been celebrating it because, I mean, it fits in with the 7 days of creation, but I don't know of any text that says they weren't.
I'm not totally sure on that. That kind of blindsided me. That's a good question, Perry. Okay, so I just wanted to show that. And then just for a little review, because we hope to actually get through all the mountains of Moses and conclude this class. But just for a review, I wanted to go back and visit with you guys about, I had 8 points, but I'm going to call it 9 points now. 9 reasons biblically why I believe that Sinai is in the location that I've presented to be in. I'm going to actually give you scriptural references so that you can follow this or not and make up your own mind. The first thing is a point that I pointed out to you, that it's on the back side of the desert. And I did a little research. Actually, I thought it was the Arabian Desert was the biggest desert in the world. Wrong. In fact, the Antarctic Desert and the Arctic Desert are the 2 biggest deserts. Had no idea that those were called deserts, but they are. Then there is the Sahara Desert is actually the largest sand desert. And then lo and behold, there's like something called the Northern Australian Desert. I never heard of that. It's huge, apparently. Anyways, 5th largest desert. Point number 1. Point number 2. Genesis 25, 1 through 3, and verse 6. If you guys can, I'll give you a chance to look at that if you'd like to. But it's the location of, it says that Abraham removed his children. Let me see if I can get back to that. Anybody can help me get this back to my slideshow? What I want to tell you. Now, it's in Genesis 25, verses 1 through 3, and verse 6. We have, it's telling us that Abraham moved his children to the east. And whenever he did that, the sons of Keturah, including Midian, by the way, he was here in Beersheba. So if you just draw a line straight down here, Midian is to the east, and this Mount Sinai is not to the east. It's to the west. So there's a little point of evidence. Okay, Exodus 15, verse 15. And this is part of the Song of Moses. Where can we find that? I'm just trying to find where I put it in the... It right there. Okay, so in this reference, the Bible says that the dukes of Edom, and it appears that they were either witnesses or they saw evidence of the water being in heaps and Egypt destroyed. So if this is Moab and Edom, they would have got that direct knowledge from their location on the Red Sea. Whereas if you went back to the other map, you would see that they wouldn't be witnesses to it. There would be no reason for the Song of Moses to point out, hey, look, the Dukes of Edom have seen this, because they'd be half a world away. Third point of reasons that I believe that this to be true is Joseph's enslaved by the Midianites and Ishmaelites. And there's a known trade route between Egypt and Midian that the text bears out. You can find that in Genesis 37, verses 25 and 27. And it appears that the Midianites and the Ishmaelites, which would be Edom, would have been more or less known as the same peoples. So there's that. Okay, then we have the timeline issue, and we talked about how far a person can travel, et cetera, et cetera. And let me go to those now, real quick. So there's like the 2 different ideas, this being one of them, and it shows the Red Sea crossing generally in this area. And that is the old trade route that was a known trade route. But normally it was actually traveled right here. And it would have been during Joseph's time, but I'm just saying that's where I believe they were probably boxed in at, right there. And then the other alternative is this guy right here. But you run into a problem. So in this account, it only takes them about 3 days to get to the Red Sea. And the Bible says that it took them approximately 30 days. And in this account, that makes a lot more sense to me as far as for a timeline goes. So I'm just point that out. That this being, the crossing being about 30 days, and then they went down to Elim, which is the video that I just showed you guys, and then they went to Sinai within that 14 or 15 day time period, according to the text. All right. A fifth one is walls of water. Now, walls of water. So this would be, again, with that first option.
It must have been funny when, like, Moses knew the way, and then that cloud sort of peels off to the right, and he's like, no, don't go that way. There's no way out. But,
right.
They have to follow the cloud.
Yeah, so Pharaoh said, we have them hemmed in. I mean, where they can't go anywhere now. They made a wrong turn. They're done. We got them right here.
Yeah,
except for he didn't realize that God was going to get his glory. It was all God's plan to begin with, to destroy Egypt for his bad decision making. But we're going to use this for a little thing. This works with the 3-day idea, and a lot of modern people have said, well, obviously they didn't cross the Red Sea. It's in some places over 100 feet deep. They must have went somewhere else. They probably went to this Reed Sea, and so they have this area right here. These little lakes right here. One of them's known as the Reed Sea, or whatever the case may be, and that's where the traditional site is. And if you go there, that body of water is 10 feet deep at its deepest point. But most places you could cross at about 3 feet. Well, it wouldn't be much for God just to blow the wind back and then walk over a little 3-foot pond or whatever the case may be. It's like minimalization of the power of God, which is what a lot of people have done through the years. But if you go and you read the account in Exodus 15:8, it says that that there were that it stood up in walls, and one of them is the Song of Moses, and it says that they were heaps. And so whenever I read that, I just have to believe, like I've been taught my whole life, that it was a miracle, and that God actually held the water back, and he led the children through, and then he destroyed the Egyptian army.
And the second half of that verse, Stu, just to back up what you're saying there, says, the flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea.
Correct.
Certainly doesn't feel like a little swamp.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Perry. So the next point of evidence that I'm going to go to is Paul in Galatians 4, 22 through 26, specifically verse 25. And does anyone have that and could read that for me? Could open my Bible. Galatians 4, anyone?
What?
25.
Now Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and corresponds to the present Jerusalem, where she is in slavery with her children.
Thank you very much. So, according to Paul, Sinai is in Arabia, and then if we actually read through that we find this allegory where he points out, and I'm going to read from my notes a little bit better, that Midian and Sinai are associated with Moses, and we know that through the law, Moses equals the law, that there's no entrance into the promised land. And we see that in the type of Moses himself, and that Moses actually dies looking over the promised land but never goes in. However, Jesus and his relationship, and we talked about this earlier, his relationship with Calvary or Mount Zion or Mount Moriah, Jerusalem, it is actually what brings us the promise of life. So that's what Paul is talking about when he says allegory, when he looks at the idea of Sinai. So then, thank you, Brother David.
No, I just wanted to back up your point
Yes.
about the Reed Sea only being like 10 feet tall. Well, I mean, one thing to consider was that,
At its deepest, but most of it's about 3 feet, 3 to 6 feet.
yeah, well, I mean, even make it 15 feet. But I
Right.
mean, the story was once the children of Israel crossed, Moses did his thing and all the water crashed down and completely annihilated the
Right.
Egyptian army. So how would 10 feet of water annihilate chariots of, so
Right.
you know that water had to be tremendously tall for it to, I mean, it's like the Ten Commandments movie that you see with Charlton Heston.
Sure.
I mean, that destroyed those people there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So like, if you've ever been surfing before, I don't never surfed 10 feet or whatever, but a 3 or 6 foot wave, no big deal. Yeah. 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 No big deal. Okay. So, and then this one, actually, Brother David gave me this one, so I can't take credit for it. But point number 7 is that it is approximately 11 days from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea. I'm going to go back to my. And that is found in Deuteronomy 1, verses 1 and 2. Hadn't picked up on this one. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan in the wilderness, the plain over against the Red Sea, between Paran and Tophel and Laban and Hazareth and Dizhab. There are 11 days, and journey's been inserted, from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir into Kadesh Barnea. So, Kadesh Barnea, and wherever Horeb is, there's 11 days. Now, one could say it could be here, or it could be here. So I don't know that that's the best evidence. But if you read a little bit better, it says by way of Seir in the Kadesh Barnea, and it's still the same thing. But so there's the region of Mount Seir here. And so we have that is definitely 11 days, and again, from either point A or point B. So these are the reasons that I think that Sinai is on the west of the Red Sea, or rather on the east of the Red Sea, as opposed to in the quote-unquote Sinai Peninsula. Continue on. Now, we're going to continue on our voyage with Moses and Aaron, actually. So, if you'll go with me to Numbers 33, and so this is a next of 2 or 3 more mountains, and then we'll be able to wrap this class up. So, Numbers 33. (37 to 39). Okay. So I got a reader out there, anybody?
And they removed from Kadesh and pitched in Mount Hor, in the edge of the land of Edom. And Aaron the priest went up into Mount Hor at the commandment of the Lord and died there. In the 40th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died in Mount Hor.
Thank you. Now, if you see right here, this has Mount Hor as being in this area. But then it also gives another hint, and it says by the edge of Edom. And then we're on a one-way path. Moses and Aaron are going, and they're gonna end in Nebo. We know that, but it's between wherever it is. Horeb is between Sinai and Nebo, and we know where Nebo is. We don't know where Sinai is, but the more probable area of Mount Horeb is in this area. Some of my maps actually show that to be the truth, but I thought we had to leave that there. And so, just we don't want to really skip over this. Aaron dies and is and he is among the children of Israel who die in the wilderness. It said, I think in this text, that and Aaron the priest went up from Mount Hor at the commandment of the Lord and died there in the 40th year. Yep. So, as God promised that their carcasses would litter the wilderness. And then, so, we have Aaron, and we know the mistake that he made with the golden calf, but also his association with the law. It wouldn't have made sense that the law would have got into the promised land. And so then we have Aaron here perishing in this region. And now we're going to go to this is actually the probable location of Mount Hor, Jebel Nev Haram. It's sort of in the location that I showed you guys. I like these maps because they show a little bit of topography here, not like traditional topography maps, but you can see it's a very mountainous region, and it gives you an idea of the terrain that they were. Yeah, I do recognize that the terrain itself actually does sort of obscure some of the writing, especially from further back. It's not much better up here. All right, so now we're going to go and we're going to cover something a little bit different, but we can't get away from Moses and not talk about this. So. And it doesn't give you any idea from the text where he got these notions from. We only can assume that God sent him this message to deal with these two particular mountains. Now, remember, to our knowledge, Moses had never actually been in Canaan. He had escaped from Egypt, and he went straight to Midian, as far as we know. He did go across the Sinai Peninsula, but he never went to Jerusalem, never saw any of that, as far as we know from any of the texts. However, in Deuteronomy 27, verses 4 to 15, and I'd like to break this up. If I could get somebody to help me read those verses, we're going to talk about this for just a few minutes, if you guys don't mind. All right, again, Deuteronomy 27. Verses 4 to 15 would get the great portion of this text. You're going to read for me, Daniel?
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
And when you have crossed over the Jordan, you shall set up these stones concerning which I command you today on Mount Ebal, and you shall plaster them with plaster, and there you shall build an altar to the Lord your God, an altar of stones. You shall wield no iron tool on them. You shall build an altar to the Lord your God of uncut stones. And you shall offer burnt offerings on it to the Lord your God. And you shall sacrifice peace offerings, and shall eat there, and you shall rejoice before the Lord your God. And when you shall write on the stones all the words of this law very plainly. Then Moses and the Levitical priests said to all Israel, keep silence and hear, O Israel. This day you have become the people of the Lord your God. You shall therefore obey the voice of the Lord your God, keeping his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today. That day Moses charged the people, saying, when you have crossed over the Jordan, these shall stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people: Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph, and Benjamin. And these shall stand on the Mount Ebal for the curse: Reuben, Gad, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, and Naphtali. And the Levites shall declare all the men of Israel in a loud voice: Cursed be the man who makes a carved or cast metal image, an abomination to the Lord, a thing made by the hands of craftsmen, and sets it up in secret. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen.
Okay. And there is more text here, but you actually, you get, and these aren't verbatim. If you read them, it's not verbatim, the Ten Commandments. It's actually a little bit different than that. But imagine this. So like we have to get this straight in our mind, or at least I did when I was considering it. Moses never been across the Jordan. And so God comes to him and tells him, look, whenever they cross over, whenever Joshua crosses over, then I want you to set up 2 altars. And I want you to put one in Mount Ebal and one in Mount Gerizim. And I want the 6 of the tribes to go over here and 6 of the tribes to go over here. And I want one set to proclaim blessings. And I want the other set to proclaim curses. And I actually want you to put people over there and make them do this thing. And this is part of his instructions. It doesn't actually say to Joshua, but it says, but when he's talking to the children of Israel, this is what I want you to do. And a physical thing. Now, it only seems to indicate once. My question was, well, why didn't they do it every year? You would almost think so. And so, like, kind of, this is my line of thinking, and maybe there's some comments about this as well. So we all have this, don't we? We have mountains in our lives that represent curses, and we have mountains that represent blessings. And we're given a choice every day which mountain we want to go live in, right? And there was a physical reminder. God comes to Moses and says, look, Moses, whenever they cross over, I want you to set this up. And I don't know how many people would have been, how many representatives. Dozens, lots of men up there, and they were actually physically to stand there by this altar apparently and say these words, and it kind of goes through, and we'll touch on a couple more of them just so we kind of get this. 15 talks about molten images and altars, Deuteronomy 27:15. And then 16 talks, cursed who setteth light by his father or mother. And then it goes into his neighbor's landmark. Anyways, they were supposed to do these things. So again, I question, wouldn't it be a great reminder, if we had 6 ecclesial members over here and 6 ecclesial members over here, and one of them gave the blessings over here and told us where we could go, and one of them told us the cursings over here, like the whole chapter, Deuteronomy 28, 29. Would it remind us? Would we then want to go to the correct mountain? I don't know that for a fact, but anyways, it's just interesting to me how, as with this object lesson, we'll call it, God was able to teach the children of Israel, hopefully, to choose the right path and choose his way. I got a few more slides that you guys might want to look at. When I saw this, I couldn't really decide if that was the front side. I think that might actually be the back side of Mount Gerizim. And this picture Sarah was able to find. And this is the city of Nablus is actually between the 2 mountains right here. And you can see fairly well the 2 mountains again.
Stuart,
Yes, sir.
it just shows how vitally important it was that the parents teach the children the laws of the Lord, because I
Right.
think once every 7 years they had it read to them, but They didn't have the laws in their house. They had to tell them to the children to drive it into their heads.
I believe that to be true for some families, but there was also an instruction to write it on the post of your house and to wear it as frontlets between your eyes. And the better parents, I believe, would have done that because they would have wanted them to make the right decisions. So here again we have Ebal, Gerizim. Ebal is the cursing. And that's interesting because it's a little closer to the Phoenician outcrop, probably starting here and going further north. And then Gerizim, which is closer to the Jordan River. And it's just north of Jerusalem, as you can see. I'll get back to that. Blessing and cursing. Cursing, blessing. And now, the conclusion. If you guys will follow me to Deuteronomy chapter 32. And this is the final mountain of Moses. Verses 48 to 50. And maybe get another reader. Anyone?
And the Lord spake unto Moses that selfsame day, saying, Get thee up into this mountain Abiram, and unto Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is over against Jericho, and behold the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession. And die in the mount whither thou goest up, and be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor, and was gathered unto his people.
Here we go. And so we can see that it's in the land of Moab. And obviously Moab went further, because if we read from the text, which is in the land of Moab over against Jericho. So we know where Jericho is. Let me see, because Sarah's made some wonderful pictures for us here. And so wherever Mount Nebo is, and I actually always considered it probably to be a little further along, but we don't know exactly where it is, because God buried Moses there, and no one knows where his tomb is to this day, except for Perry.
So this is where I believe the transfiguration was, because you have Moses, he gets to view the land, so it's a high mountain.
Okay.
And it's just before they cross the Jordan. So most people put it on the northeastern side of the Dead Sea. And it's interesting because it's also in the same region where Elijah was. He crosses the Jordan and then is taken away. And when Christ goes to the Transfiguration, it's about 6 days' journey from Caesarea Philippi, which is up north of the Sea of Galilee.
Correct.
And so
we've been way up here.
That's a wonderful story in and of itself, I think, where you can tie the Transfiguration into Mount Nebo.
Okay. We will now turn to Deuteronomy chapter 34. And I've got down here verses 1 to 7, but most all of this chapter is but this will be good for us. And Moses went up from the plains of Moab into Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is over against Jericho. And it'd be nice to have a map to actually show where Jericho is. We know what Jericho is. That was the first city that they came to when they crossed the Jordan River. And it's actually in Canaan, so. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead, even unto Dan, and all Naphtali, and all the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, into the utmost sea, and the south and the plains of Jericho, into the city of the palm trees, even Zoar. And the Lord said unto him, This is the land which I sware unto Abraham, and to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, I will give it to thee and thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but you shall not go in thither. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he was buried in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor, but no man knoweth his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural force abated. So going back to Moses' life, we'll just do a little quick review. 40 years old, kills an Egyptian, moves to Midian, spends a lifetime in Midian, gets married to the daughter of the priest of Midian, has a family, and then God visits him and says, nope, I want you to go back to Egypt, and I want you to carry your people out of Egypt. So he goes to Egypt. He gives all the astonishing miracles before Pharaoh, and then he leaves, and then he spends the next 40 years in the wilderness. And right before the end of the 40 years, he is stopped from going into the promised land. And again, I've hypothesized that through the law, you cannot get to the promised land. And so that's the kind of the end of the story, if you will. And then we know that a greater Joshua, being Jesus, actually is the person who can lead us into the promised land. And it's not through the law. Thank you for your attention.